Das erste Kapitel Israel will werden ein Mensch. Wenn Noach ist einmal in der Teve übergeblieben von allen Beschäftigten auf der Welt, wo sind der Trunken geworden in dem Mabel, also bin ich, Israel ben Zippe, übergeblieben in mein Städtel, ein einziger Bucher von allen meinen Chaverim, welche sind durch dem Unschickenisch von Schatchonim geworden jinge balabeslich von der Zeit und eingesinken geworden tief bis dem Hals in Dallas in Kapzonesnebach. Chapter 1, das erste Kapitel. Israelik will werden ein Mensch. Israelik wants to become a person, a real person. A Mensch means a human, a man, but here it means a real person. The Noach is Noah from the Noah's Ark. The Noach is amol in der Teve. Teve is the Ark. Übergeblieben was left von alle Beschäftigten, all creatures of der Welt, in the world, was sind ertrunken geworden, that sunk, that drowned, in the Mabel. Mabel is the flood, the biblical flood, in Parshas Noach. Also bin ich, Israel ben Zippe, in exactly the same way, I myself, Israel, son of Tzippe. Tzippe is the mother's name. Tzippe is short for Tzipora, Tzipoire in Yiddish. And so Israel, the son of Tzippe, übergeblieben, was left in mein Städtel, in my Städtel, ein einziger Bucher, one and only Bucher. Bucher is the single young man, a bachelor. Von alle meine Chaverim, from all of my friends, welche sind durch dem Unschickenisch von Schatchonim. Unschickenisch is a plague. It's a comical word. Let's see. Unschickenisch, a curse or a calamity. Von Schatchonim. Schatchonim are the matchmakers, generally speaking male. Geworden jinge balabeslach, they became young. A balabos is a master of the house or landowner, or actually, just the owner. Balabos is the householder or an owner. Balabeslach is basically they became married men. Vader Zeit, before their time. So Mendele is referring to the time when, for multiple reasons historically, Jewish kids, usually around the age of 12, some even earlier, were getting married. And one of the reasons why was to avoid the priziv, which was the compulsory conscription into the Tsarist army. It could have been a little bit earlier, it could have been a little bit later, but generally speaking, what Mendele is referring to here is that these children who were friends of Israelik, the protagonist of this novel, and Israelik is the author of the Kliatshe. Mendele, Moykher Sforim, is the Farzamler, he is the editor or the publisher, and Israelik is the one who had written this book. So we're reading the writings of Israelik. And Israelik, the author, says that when he was left alone and all of his other friends got married, basically. That's what he's saying. Und eingesunken geworden tief bis dem Hals in Dallas in Kapzonesnebach. Dallas is poverty, kaptsanes, poverty. Different types of poverty, but different words for poverty, but they mean the same thing, poverty. If you're wondering why there are several words for poverty in Yiddish, there's actually more. Listen to Bashevis Zinger's Nobel Prize acceptance speech. He lists about 20. So what he's saying is that these young married men, his friends, they immediately sunk deep in poverty. Kaptsanas, another type of poverty. Meaning they had no means to support their families, and so this was the expected outcome of having such an early marriage, is that you would not be able to support your new family, and you would become a pauper. So this is poverty, and this is paupery, I guess, being a pauper. Das Unschicken ist von Gott, die Schatchonim, haben sich losgetunzt in mein Mame, euch von mir vorzuschlagen, ihr Shidduchim. Mein Mame, a proste no a kluge Jidene, ist gewähn an Almune, kein Reicher, aber auch euch nicht. Sie hat gehabt Parnusse von ihr Kleidzellnik, gegangen a Halsperl, gelebt ganz fein. Ich bin bei ihr gewesen ben Juchid, sie hat sich in mir geschmolzen, mir noch gegeben als Ding, was ich hab verlangt, darüber, als ich hab mich eingespart, nicht in Kassen zu haben, ob ich es ausgeführt. Tchiles hat sie viel geprüft, mich überzureden, mit Asagang. So let's translate. Das Unschicken ist von Gott. The word unschicken is we already looked up. This is a curse or a plague from God. Again, quite comical. The Shatchanim, the matchmakers, are the curse from God. Why was already apparent, because the outcome of the marriage wasn't a happy marriage. Haben sich losgetun zu meinen Mammen. They ran up to my mother. They were also losgetun, meaning they set themselves upon my mother, almost like a pack of dogs. That's how I'm translating a losgetun. Euch mir vorzuschlagen, ihr Shidduchim. Shidduchim are the matches. This is what young Jewish people who are single, and not so young, but still single, are looking for when they say, I'm looking for such and such, I'm looking for a shidduch. Okay? Sie mein Mammen euch von mir vorzuschlagen. Vorzuschlagen is perhaps suggest, but this is a little bit stronger than suggest. Let's see what the dictionary says. The dictionary says suggest, so we'll go with suggest. Von mir vorzuschlagen, ihr Shidduchim. Shidduchim. Mein Mama a proste, noch a kluge Jidene. So my mother, a simple but a wise woman. Yidene means it's like the counterpart of a Yid, but in this case, Yidene really means just a woman, because Jewish woman is called a Yidene. Jewish woman who has been married or is married is a Yidene. A Jewish male is a Yid. Non-Jews have other names. So there is a separation in language between men and women according to whether they're Jews or non-Jews. is gewesen an Almone. Almone is a widow. Keine Reiche, she wasn't rich, aber Orem euch nicht. But she was neither reich, neither rich nor poor. She wasn't poor. Sie hat gehabt Parnusse von ihr Kleidzellnik. She had income, she had earnings from her store. The store was Zellnik. Zellnik is very, let's see, what is Zellnik? Zellnik is haberdasher. So haberdasher, just petty little things that she was selling, like needles and, you know, it's like a cross between, you know, a $2 shop. Yeah, like a $2 shop, something like that. Gegangen nach Halsperl, she walked around with a string of pearls on her neck. Gelebt ganz fein. She had good living standards. Ich bin bei ihr gewesen a Ben Yuchid. Ben Yuchid is the only son. Ben Yechide is the only daughter. So I was her only son, which is quite unusual for those times when people had many siblings, and you know, this is before our times. This is actually the times that are being described here are probably the early 19th century. So this is roughly about 200 years ago, I would say. And so, as I said, multiple siblings, multiple children, not many survived, not all of them survived, but quite a few did. In whatever conditions Mendele describes in other books, other works, especially Winchfinger, if you would like to know more. Winchfinger is the wishing ring. Sie hat sich in mir geschmolzen. She had nachas. She was proud. She was very proud of me. Mir nachgegeben alsdem. She allowed me everything. She permitted me everything. So she was a permissive, very permissive mother, because he's the only one, Ben Yuchid. So the motherly love is not split among multiple kids. It's all devoted to Israelik. And so in this regard, the mother really just gave in to all of his wishes. In other words, she spoiled him in a way. Mir noch gegeben als Ding, but he reflects on that himself. Was ich hab verlangt, everything that I wanted, that I demanded, that I requested. Darüber, als ich hab mich eingespart, nicht in gazanen zu haben, habe ich es ausgeführt. Therefore, when I became stubborn and decided eingespart is, I think, to set myself against something. I found Eingespartheit, which is stubbornness. So he stubbornly refused. Als ich, wo bin ich? Darüber, als ich hab mich eingespart, nicht in gazanen zu haben, habe ich es ausgeführt. Therefore, when I became stubborn, when I set myself against yin gazanen zu haben, get married in an early age, habe ich es ausgeführt. I succeeded in that. in that regard. I made it because his mother was agreeable to everything that he requested and he wished. However, tchilas, in the beginning, hat sehr viel geprüft, mich überzureden mit Azagang. Initially, she even tried, geprüft, mich überzureden. She tried to talk me over. She tried to convince me. Mit Azagang. Gang is a way or is a walk, but in this case, it's a manner, in such a manner. She tried to convince me to change my mind in such a manner. Ist ruhig. Wie viel habe ich Gott gebeten, ich soll dir leben die Zeit, man soll dich reden Shidduchim. Du bist doch mein ein Augenkopf. Ich mein doch Tage nach dein Teufel. Folge mich, leben und hab Chassen. Schön Zeit ist ruhig. Guck dich a Yid und a Nore, a Berdel. Deine Chaverim haben noch Zider Bar Mitzvah Chassene gehabt. Folg leben, ma Mama. Tu, was Gott hat geboten und lass mich von dir nachgeschoben. Beautiful. So this is what his mom is telling him, Isrolik. So Isrolik is a tactless, a very loving way of calling Israel with the diminutive Isrolik. Wie viel habe ich Gott gebeten? How much have I begged God? Ich soll der lebende Zeit. I should live to see the time. Me soll dich reden Shidduchim. That the Shadchanim will start coming and suggesting to you Shidduchim, the matches. So she is trying to guilt him a little bit, saying, I've been waiting for all my life to see you get married, to see you, to live to the time when the Shadchanim, the matchmakers, will start coming in and proposing their matches to you. Du bist doch mein ein Augenkopf. You're my only eye in my head. You're the only eye that I have in my head. It's an interesting expression. It's a very colorful expression, also quite common. Mein ein Augenkopf. Ben Yuchid is an ein Augenkopf. It's like you cannot afford to lose your only eye, and you cannot afford to lose your only child. Ich mein doch Take noch dein Teufel. I mean it only for your benefit, not for my benefit. Initially she said, I wanted to live to see this time because, this is what I've been waiting for, but I want it for your benefit. Ich mein doch Take, I wanted actually, Take, noch dein Teufel. I wanted for you. Folge mich, listen to me, obey me, chleben, und hab Chasen, and get married. Schon Zeit, it's already time is holy. Guck dich have a look at yourself, have a look, take a look around, take a look. A Yid, you're a man, a grown man. A Yid unanore, unanore is without an evil eye, but meaning she doesn't want to say something positive to bring an evil eye so that it will just become a curse. So she says, Aid unanore. You might be familiar with the expression kenanore, so it's the same thing. Kenanore unanore. A berdel, so he has already a small beard. Deine chaverim ob noch zu der bar mitzvah chasene gehad. Your friends, chaverim, ob noch zu der bar mitzvah, even before the bar mitzvah, ob chasene gehad. They already got married. So they got married, bar mitzvah is at 13, so they got married before 13. This is his peers. Folg chleib ma mame, listen to your mother. Chleib is uh, really, is like for real, for real. Volkleib Mamame, tu was Gott hat geboten. Was Gott hat geboten is literally what God has commanded, which means that getting married is a mitzvah, is something that is a commandment, and it's an expected thing, it's a natural thing. Und lass mich von dir Nachricht haben. And let me von dir, from you, Nachricht, enjoyment have. I want to have pride and joy and enjoyment from you. Nor als sie hat gesehen, als es ist ausgeworfen Red, wie viel sie soll nicht reden, halte ich mich taki bei meinem, als nein, hat sie mir noch gegeben und schon mehr davon nicht gerät, a viel kein Wort. Ich hab ihr ausgelost, ausgesucht, ganz klar, dem reinen Mensch, als ich bin gut gesonnen zu lernen als Ding, was man lernt in die Klassen, abzugeben der noch Examen und reingehen in Universität zu lernen dort Chochmes a Doktorie, kidei ich soll damit später nützlich sein, sich und der Welt. Let's translate. Now, as sie hat gesehen, however, when she saw, as es ist ausgeworfen Rede, that this is literally words that are speech that is being thrown out, that her words are not having any effect on him. Wie viel sie soll nicht reden, as much as she can talk, there is no effect. Halt ich mich take bei meinem, I hold on to my own view, to my own conviction. Als nein und nein, keep saying no and no, hat sie mir noch gegeben, in schon mehr davon nicht gerät, a viel kein Wort. She noch gegeben, she went along. She went along with what I wanted, and schon mehr davon nicht gerät, a viel kein Wort. And she didn't want to talk about it any longer. She did not let out a single word about this issue anymore. That's it. Ich habe ihr herausgesucht, ganz klar, dem reinen Memes. I told her a simple truth, reine Memes, clear, pure truth, that I told her, herausgesucht, ganz klar, very, very succinctly and clearly. And so what is this truth? Als ich bin gut gesonnen zu lernen als Ding, was man lernt in die Klassen, that I am gut gesonnen. I am not familiar with this word because it's from German. So gesonnen is to, I am guessing, I am desiring, or I am gewollt is this is my intention. Yeah, Bekivendigkeit is the intention. But gesunden and gesonnen, they seem to be from German because it says nicht rekommendiert. When it's nicht rekommendiert, that means it's from German. Meaning that it's an old-fashioned, outdated word that we don't use in modern Yiddish anymore. Where am I? Gesonnen. Go gesonnen. Zu lernen als Ding. I have my conviction, I have my intention to study everything, lernen als Ding, was man lernt in die Klassen, that is being taught in the course, class or course, upzugeben noch Examen. Perhaps this is the klassen that are in the Schule, which is the high school certificate that he wants to uh, undertake homeschooling and to do on his own with homeschooling the equivalent of high school knowledge that one would get if he were to go to high school. But Israeli, given that he lives in a shtetl and nowhere near a large town, and this is in the early 19th century, he has no recourse to any kind of Russian school because Jewish kids just uh, not not accepted there. So upzugeben der noch examen. After that, after I finish the high school equivalency on my own, which is quite a huge task if you imagine if you never studied any high school subjects. He wants to undertake the high school curriculum on his own, never having gone to high school. Upzugeben der noch examen. After that, to take and pass the examen, und reingehen in Universität, and go and get admitted, reingehen in university, zu lernen dort, to study there, Chochmes a Doctorie, the science of medicine, Doctorie, medicine, doctor. Kidei soll damit später nützlich sein sich und der Welt. So, kidei, in order that, soll damit, I should with that, meaning with the Chochmas Adoktoria. Später, afterwards, nützlich sein, be useful, have utility. Nützlichkeit is utility, nützlich is useful. Sein sich, for myself, I'll be useful for myself, I'll be able to earn an income. Und der Welt, I'll be able to help the world, right? To become a doctor. Let's read what happened next. Mame, habe ich zu ihr sich umgerufen. Es ist hein schon etwas an anderer Welt. Schon Zeit leben, zu sehen die große Glücken, wo es jeden machen heint mit sehr frühen Gazanes, die große Gedäules von unserer jungen Batimlach. Einmal haben älteren Gazane gemacht ihre Kinder mit dem Betochen, Gott hat uns zugeschickt zum Leben, misstamme Wetter, sie euch etwas zu schicken, und sie wollen nicht kuschen, nicht sterben vor Hunger. Mama, says es ruhig. Habe ich zu ihr angerufen. That's what I said to her. Es ist schon etwas, es ist heint schon etwas an anderer Welt. These days, it's a different world. We're living in a different world. Schon Zeit, it's already time, Leben, for real, really. Zu sehen die große Glücken, to see what kind of great fortunes. This is quite a sarcastic turn of phrase. Die große Glücken. Take a look what kind of great fortunes was Jiden machen heint mit sehr frühen Gazanes that Jews are doing right now with their early marriages. Die große Gedäules, the great pride, perhaps. Gedäule is greatness, so the great greatnesses. Von unserer Jinge Batimlach, from, in this case, I think Gedule is enjoyment. What great enjoyment one gets from these early marriages. Yeah, so Gedule is greatness or grandeur, but in this case, a große Gedule is a great, a big deal, like a big deal or a big enjoyment, something along those lines. Die größte Geduld von unsere Jinge Balabatimler. So take a look, see what kind of enjoyment we're getting from these early marriages. So obviously very little because they all became paupers. Amol oben Eltern Chassene gemacht ihre Kinder mit dem betochen. Once upon a time, the parents, Eltern, haben Chassene gemacht ihre Kinder. They married off their children. So these are all arranged marriages, by the way. So there's no going out, there is no getting to know each other. By and large, these are all arranged marriages. So the parents have married off their children mit dem betochen, with the betochen is trust or hope, in this case hope. It literally means trust. And trust in God. So Gott hat uns zugeschickt zum Leben, Mistome wird sie euch etwas zu schicken und sie wollen nicht kuschen, nicht sterben vor Hunger. God has sent us living sustenance zum Leben. Mistome perhaps he will also send etwas, something to them. Nicht kuschen, it will be all right. It's all right. Nicht sterben vor Hunger. They will not die of hunger. In jener Zeit ist betochen noch, wie es ist umgegangen. Aber heint wird man damit verschwarzt. Schwer, sehr schwer, zu leben heintige Zeit von die feinen Finger in Machen von Schnee Gommelkes. In those times is betochen, trust or hope, noch wie es ist umgegangen. Perhaps it was still appropriate. Umgegangen. It was appropriate. Came to be Umgehen is acceptable. Aber heint, however, nowadays wird man damit verschwarzt. Nowadays, one is embarrassed by this. Verschwarzt literally means one is blackened. Schwarz, black, verschwarz. Verschwarzen is to blacken, but I think this means embarrassed. So this doesn't work anymore. The trusting and hoping in God that He will provide you with sustenance does not work these days. It worked for you, for your generation, but it doesn't work for our generation. Schwer, sehr schwer zu leben heutige Zeit von die feinen Finger. It's hard, very hard to live these days from your own 5 fingers, perhaps from your own handiwork, from your own effort, without an education. So just like somebody who is Bal Meloche, a person without education, not a laborer, a teacher, a tailor, a schuster, a shoemaker, and so on. So somebody who has just works with his own 5 fingers. Und machen von Schnee Gommelkes. So this is a funny expression, machen von Schnee Gommelkes. Gommelkes, I think, is is like a type of kreplach. It's a dough with cheese, kezkrep. Kez, yeah, it's a type of cheese pastry, dough-filled, no, cheese-filled dough dumplings. There you go. Let's see if we can find gommelkes. Yeah, I couldn't find gommelkes, but I'm pretty sure it's something along the, it's some type of a pastry. So what he's saying is that when you work with your 5 fingers in those times, it's very hard to support yourself and to create pastry, cheese-filled dumplings from snow, an impossibility. Etliche Mensch darf bei Zeiten sehen mit allen Möglichkeiten, als alle seine Größe Bedürfnisse lassen ihm versichert sein, damit auf sein ganz Leben und befragt noch mit mir Jiden, was wir sehen, also in der Klemm, geschickt, gestickt, gedrückt von allen Seiten, und ist nicht für uns kein anderer Weg herauszureißen sich, wie es ist von den Zures, Seidentake, nur durch Auslernen sich einer von den Chochmes, wie ein Steiger, Chochmes Adoktorial Muschel, oder öfter einer von den anderen Maluches. Okay. Every person must, in ahead of time, Bezeitens, sehen, see, und mit allen Möglichkeiten, with all of his strength, with all of his possibilities, opportunities, Möglichkeit. Möglichkeit is possibility. Alle Möglichkeiten, als alle seine Größe Bedürfnisse soll ihm versichert sein, that all of his great needs Bedürfnisse soll ihm versichert sein, should be secured for him, meaning that you should be ahead of time, you should provide for your own needs, to be self-sufficient. So, and apply yourself to the max to be able to provide for yourself and use every single possibility, opportunity. Tamid, auf sein ganz Leben, permanently for his entire life. Und befragt noch mir Jiden, and especially this is so for us, Jews, was mir sehnen also in der Klemm, I believe is the vice. So we are so under pressure, we are so oppressed, gestickt, suffocated, gedrückt, pressured, von alle Seiten, from all sides, ist nicht für uns kein anderer Weg herauszureißen sich, wie es ist von der Zures, and there is no other way, Weg, herauszureißen sich, to tear ourselves away from, to get out of VSs, however possible, von die Zures, from the problems, from the problems, Seidentake nur durch auszulernen sich einer von die Chochmes, except Take, in actuality, nur durch auszulernen sich einer von die Chochmes. As I'm saying, to study one of the sciences, wie a Steiger, such as, for instance, a Steiger, Chochmes Adoktoria, the science of medicine, medical science, Lamushel, for instance, again, Lamushel and a Steiger, the synonyms, oder Efshe eine von die anderen Maluches. Or perhaps one of the other professions. Malucha is a trade. However, I mentioned before, a Bal Malocha is somebody who is like a tailor or a shoemaker. So what he's saying is learn something in the university. So a trade in the university, perhaps he's referring to becoming a lawyer or an engineer or something like that. But a malucha, the word malucha generally refers to uneducated. Melocha is a handcraft, and Bal Melocha is a craftsman. Okay. So, eine von den anderen Meluchas, nicht Meluchas, Melochas. Melucha is a kingdom. Melocha is a trade, craft. Ob ich allein will jetzt in die jinge Jahren nicht sorgen für mein tactless, was kann Chalile sein der Sof von mir? Als a Sof-Tage, wie von einer Sache hingeleit in unserer Art, was haben durch sich glücklich Chassene gehabt und reingefallen nach Schmalzgrub. Der Schmalz ist der noch ausgerunnen und die Grube ist geblieben. Ein Teil haben sich zerschleppt, ein Teil sind geworden Melamdim und ein Teil mischtens gesucht, teugen viele dazu euch nicht. So, if I myself, right now, well jetzt, in die jungen Jahren, when I'm young, nicht sorgen für mein Tachless, not provide, not worry, not be concerned, for mein Tachless. Tachless is the end goal, is the essential goal. Like, Tachless can be, first of all, Parnasa, that's tactless. Family is tactless. Kinder, children, tactless. So that's tactless. Was kann Chalile sein der Sof von mir? What will, God forbid, Chalile, sein der Sof von mir? What will be the end of me? Meaning, he doesn't see the what else he can do. As a Sof Taki wie von a Sach hingeleit in unser Art. The same end result will be from me as from a lot, asach, jungeleit, young men, young people, in unser Art, in our style. I believe art is style. Art is manner. Yeah? So, unser Art, was haben durch sich glücklich Chassene gehabt, who had seemingly durch sich, it seemed, glücklich Chassene gehabt, they happily got married, und reingefallen nach Schmalzgrub. This is an expression which literally means to fall into a hole that is covered with schmaltz. Schmaltz is like fat that comes from ducks or geese, meaning that they won the lottery. They thought they won the lottery. They thought that they struck it big. Yeah, the Schmalz is der noch ausgerunnen und die Grube ist geblieben. What happened next was that the Schmalz, the fat, this duck fat or the goose fat, is ausgerunnen. It poured out, und die Grube ist geblieben, and the hole was left. Meaning they fell into a hole which was filled with all the goodness. The goodness then just poured itself out, and the hole was left, and they were left in the hole. A Teil haben sich zerschleppt, a Teil sind geworden Melamdim, und a Teil mischtens gesucht, teugen a viele dazu euch nicht. A part, meaning a part of these young men, he is talking about his peers, ähm, haben sich zerschleppt. Zerschleppt, they walked away. They didn't divorce their wives, but what happened is that they went to look for earning to make a living somewhere else. So they left their families behind, the young wife and perhaps young children, and they couldn't find the way to make a living in their own shtetl, and they went elsewhere. So they haben sich zerschleppt. That's what is meant by zerschleppt. A teil seinen geworden melamdim. A part of them became melamdim. Melamed is a school teacher. However, in those times, melamdim were people who were educating kindergarten style, kindergarten age kids through to so it's like kindergarten through to like primary and middle school, perhaps something like that. But middle school is already a different level. So these young men, they became kindergarten teachers. If that doesn't sound to you like a very ambitious profession, now it didn't sound like a very ambitious profession in the olden times also. It basically required no education. If you attended the cheder, which is the equivalent of a school system, and you've learned something, meaning that you didn't forget everything that was taught there, then you can go and teach young kids. So it requires absolutely no skills other than perhaps have decent memory. Und a Teil, mishteins gesucht teug na viele dazu euch nicht. And a part, pardon the expression, mishteins gesucht, teug na viele dazu euch nicht. They're not even capable of doing that. Meaning, Mendele has very low opinion of the melamdim. So these days, I'm not sure what melamdim, what the teachers are called in cheder, but perhaps not a melamed. But we have a lot more respect for teachers, and a lot more qualifications are required. So in those times, to teach on kindergarten level, you really didn't need any qualifications. And what he's saying that some of them couldn't even hack doing that. Welch aber werden a Doktor, wird sich öffnen von mir a Welt. Ich will werden a Mensch und haben gering mein Stückel Brot. Ein Brere, die Mama hat mir schon noch gegeben, ich du's euch. Als ich soll lernen, noch früher habe ich hier gemusst zusagen, als ich soll bleiben ein ehrlicher Jid. Oh, this is important. So, welch aber werden a Doktor, wird sich öffnen von mir a Welt. If I become a doctor, on the contrary, compare a doctor to a kindergarten teacher, wird sich öffnen von mir a Welt. The world will open itself up for me, to me, for me. Ich will werden a Mensch. I will become a man. A Mensch is more than a man. A Mensch is a real person. A real person. Und haben gering mein Stückel Brot. And I will earn my piece of bread easily, gering. Ein Brere, no choice. So there was no choice. Die Mame hat mir schon noch gegeben. Ich du's euch. My mother had agreed to that also. So his mom went along with that idea that he will become a doctor, and that's the trajectory for his life. He wants to get educated. He wants to leave the shtetl, go to the university. There's no university at a shtetl because you need to be at a large city, non-Jewish. So my mother agreed with that the ich soll lernen, that I should study. No früher habe ich ihr gemusst zu sagen. However, before that, first of all, I had to promise her, zu sagen, promise, als soll bleiben an ehrlicher Yid, that I will remain an observant Jew. Ehrliche is, I think it's honest or honorable. Honest, upright, religiously observant. So yeah, she wants him to be not just a proper upstanding person, but actually a Yid. So she wants him to remain a Jew. And this is important because what his mother's concern is that if he goes to a non-Jewish environment and starts learning non-Jewish things, as for instance the medical science, he might, God forbid, lose his Yiddishkeit, his observance, and he will stop being an honorable, a decent Jewish person. So he must remain an observant Jew. And that is the agreement that he made with his mother, that she allows him, she says, do whatever you want to do at this point in time. However, with a tzuzog, with a promise that you will be an ehrlicher Yid.